Round number three comes from us from the Washington Post. I try to set it up in between bad stories and good stories. We're
This
doing
is
little
like a
ebbs and
macaroon.
flow.
This is like a macaroon of stories. You got the gross, weird breading on the outside. That story with the dog was the only good part, the middle.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so now we're going to get into some more of the dry, flaky crust of the story. This comes to us from the Washington Post and the New York Times and basically every other media outlet in the world. Russian bounties offered to Taliban-linked militants to kill coalition forces in Afghanistan are believed to have resulted in the deaths of several U.S. service members, according to intelligence gleaned from the U.S. military interrogations of captured militants in recent months. Several people familiar with the matter said it was unclear exactly how many American or coalition troops from other country may have been killed or targeted under the program. U.S. forces in Afghanistan suffered a total of 10 deaths from the hostile gunfire or improvised bombs in 2018 and 16 in 2019. 2 have been killed this year. In each of those years, several service members were also killed by what is known as green on green or green on blue hostile incidents by members of Afghanistan security forces, which are sometimes to believe have been infiltrated by the Taliban. The intelligence passed from U.S. Special Operations Forces based in Afghanistan led to a restricted high-level White House meeting in late March. So they're saying that this meeting actually happened at the White House. The meeting led to broader discussions about possible responses to Russian action, ranging from diplomatic expressions of disapproval and warnings to sanctions, all kinds of shit. Basically, if you have this kind of thing, everything's on the table. You come in there, you have a whole kit and caboodle of things that you can offer to the president or you can offer to the DOD. These are the type of actions. If you've ever seen The West Wing, I think that's a perfect illustration of what actually goes down, where you have all these different officers, all these different military members, these advisors that are sitting around the situation room, and they say, what can we do here? What are our options on the table? Well, we have this option. We have that option. We have this option. Wouldn't you think so, Cons?
Yes, I think that's a prime example of what would happen. And that just goes back to thinking about what it comes down to ultimately make that decision, to take all those options and then be the one that has to make the decision, even based on all this great intelligence and all these smart people and all these great leaders informing you. Then you have to make that decision. It's so tough.
Wait, am I understanding this right? That so Russia was basically saying, hey, if you kill Americans, we'll pay you kind of thing? Is that
yes.
what And so this is making me think of this never-ending cycle in Afghanistan where when Afghanistan had invaded, or when Russia had invaded Afghanistan, and we were taking back channels to fund the Mujahideen and all these other groups to take them out. And now it's like the reverse, where now they're funding the bad guys there to take us out. And it's like, when is this gonna, what the fuck? But also, fuck Russia.
Right, fuck Russia big time. Because the intelligence that came out, the CIA was tasked with reviewing everything. The administration's special envoy for Afghanistan, he's been in the news a lot. He's the one that's involved with the negotiations with the Taliban and how we're going to withdraw and what we're going to give up for the Taliban, what they're going to give up with Afghanistan, and on and on and on. He said that he preferred confronting the Russians directly about the matter, while some of the National Security Council officials in charge of Russia were more dismissive of taking immediate action. Now, to me, if Russia is legitimately hiring people to kill Americans, that's not something. I'm not like a confrontational guy in my marriage. Like, I let a lot of things go, like where I don't want to get into an argument where most likely if it's not going to be a big deal tomorrow, it's not a big deal today type of situation. This is one you got to bring up. If you're trying to hire people to kill us, you got to be direct about that one.
Yeah, you got to figure out if it's legit or not, for sure. That's not something you just brush off and say like, oh yeah, no, that's not true. You got to really investigate and find out what the hell is going on, because if this is happening, it's a very big problem.
And it probably hasn't just been happening for a couple of years now. It's probably been a long time thing. And if I was family of a service member that has been killed, I want the U.S. to fucking do something. I don't know. Get online, bitch. Do something like that. But yeah. So
and
I don't know.
This is far from the first time that something like this happened. When we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, there was different bounties that were constantly placed on special operators and dog handlers. It's just the nature of the beast. When you're at war in somebody else's territory, there is going to be bounties on your head. Now, you don't expect it to come from somebody who, I guess technically, because if they're going to be a part of the G8 again, would be considered an ally. You don't want that coming from an ally, but having bounties on your head is a as a service member deployed is not something that's strange. I mean, that we knew for a fact that we, like dog handlers, were briefed before you go out. Snipers are told they will get more money if they kill you because you are a force multiplier. Like they are.
And same as
fighting
if
the
you
bombs
take
and
out
shit.
if you take out an officer, that's why
Right.
they would tell them, don't go outside the wire with your M9. They know that you're an officer.
That's why
that
they
kind of
started
thing.
littering people with more, with more pistols and things like that, because it traditionally had just been officers that would carry pistols. So they started
Yeah.
to give pistols to more people, which made people more of a target, I guess, which doesn't make a whole
There
lot of sense looking back.
There was all sorts of stuff though. Like I know we're talking about now Russia's involved, but I remember when I was in too, the big rumor that it was Chechnya, Chechen snipers were the ones coming in and killing US troops. And
Yeah. So I think that this story has blown up a lot, but when I first heard about it, it is obviously bad on its face, but it's not surprising. Like whenever you're at war in another country, people are trying to kill you. Like that's part of the game. Like it really is.
That's, as they say, how it works.
but this is just a whole different ball of wax though.
Yeah, you got it, but you have to. You can't just be like, well, it's part of it. You got to do something to mitigate that. And if you're not one of these fucking things, like the president and the vice president, and now the chief of staff being like, well, Lance Corporal don't know. That doesn't work when you're the commander in chief. Specialists don't know. Lance Corporal don't know. Seamen don't know. Don't work when you're the commander in chief. If you didn't know, and this was a high-level conversation that was happening at the White House with multiple levels of the CIA and NSA, and you didn't know that it was happening, why the fuck not? That's a pretty important question to ask. Why are they keeping this from you? Who makes that decision? Because Cons, as an officer, as a commander, your responsibility sometimes is to keep things from higher command, right? Like you don't brief everything up.
Correct.
But if there's something that should have gone up and you don't, you are fucked.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then on the other end of that, if someone above you asks you a question about something you should know and you're in the dark, there's no worse feeling than not knowing something you're supposed to know.
Well, why the fuck
worse.
don't you know? Well, there was these bounties and like, no, that's not gonna work.
Then again, sure, you tell the higher ups, but you also are taught to sanitize and put a bow on everything you tell the higher ups, so they feel like they're crushing it and doing a great job. So President Trump, we're having a little Russia goofing right now. Don't worry about it. Maybe that was the
got it
extent
under
of,
control. They buzzed the tower a little bit.
I'm going to tell you also, though, too, like with all of this stuff, I'm always just like, there's part of me that says there's always, I'd say 25% of everything that we just don't know. And it's just not being told. And there's no way the news is ever going to find out about it. So we'll never know about it one way or another.
Yeah. I just wish we had better answers than we weren't briefed about it.
Yeah.
No. Just get together. I mean, that's the main thing that's going on right now. Just speak with one voice where it's like, oh, we didn't know. Oh, no, I knew about it. I definitely knew about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's almost worse. That's almost worse when there's conflicting stories coming out.
Yep. A little bit of pass the buck, I guess we'll say. Let's move on to round number 4.